You're doing it, didn't you?
That's terrible.
I can't. I just find myself humming it all the time. It's starting to drive both of us mad, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's funny though.
Okay, that's recording.
Is it recording?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Okay. Yeah.
Fancy.
Okie dokie, enjoy.
Thanks.
See you soon.
Can you shut the door? That's it, thanks. The door.
So let's see if I had any more questions for you, Sad. The course you were on, what you've been up to. How are people? Well, people are really loving Fortune Box as well, right?
I'm getting good reviews on Fortune Box. It's really freaking me out. I can't believe it. It's really, I'm really happy about it. I seem to have like, I don't know how many, but they all seem to be pretty good.
How did you go about writing that? Did you come up with a central theme and then you were like, here are like, what is it, like 10 to 15 different GIFs and then you just write them all out, or?
How did I really enjoy making lists, which, I find it fun. But basically I just made lists of like normal problems like having slugs or noisy neighbours or something like that. And just wrote a completely separate list of the first thing that came into my head. I've got the window open, sorry. Of like the first thing that came into my head, and I just saw if there were any connections that made my brain excited. So the story where they put the other students into the little cage thing was inspired by have you seen the Armando Iannucci shows?
Yeah, I love them.
Yeah, it's so good. Have you seen that, Danger? Danger?
Wait, what? I was in the bathroom. I missed the beginning of this conversation.
Sorry. Have you seen the Armando Iannucci shows?
I do not know what that is.
It's British. He's done so much comedy writing. Like he basically anything funny from here, pretty much, and Veep as well.
Yeah,
I'm not so keen on Veep actually. I like Thick of It, but I'm not.
I've definitely seen Veep.
Yeah, I'm not as keen on that one, but I like the Thick of It a lot. But anyway, yeah, he did the Armando Iannucci shows, and it's really clever and very funny. And I was inspired by that for one of the stories. Because he's got annoying neighbours, and he puts out slug pellets for them. And you see him in the garden. He's got like a half melted neighbour. In like slug pellets and that, so that kind of got my brain going.
That's good. I'll do again. Links in the description. Armando Iannucci shows.
Yes.
Oh. We were just talking about Fortune Box.
Oh, okay. I have not read it yet, but I got it ordered on my from my library. My library in town is actually really great. And I don't really spend money on books anymore. I just have them order all the indie books that I want to read, and they just do it. And they usually buy a couple copies, so it's good for the author too. You still, get a couple copies out. But it's on order there. The only problem is it takes like 3 extra months past the release date for it to actually show up sometimes.
Yeah, I'm impressed that you can get things like that at the library though. I'm not sure if that would happen here.
It's like the library. I don't know if it's because Eraserhead is located in Portland, probably. And we've done events with the library and stuff like that, or if they're just because it's a major city and they have there's 13 branches to it, and they just have like 2 million books, and they just have a certain budget that they'll just buy new books each month or whatever the case is. So
I could probably try. I mean, we could see because Southend is a fairly big place. I could always try and see if the library would do that kind of book, I could ask.
It's my cheat for saving money.
Yeah.
Because I read so much, and I'm just like, I can't spend like, $1,000 a year on books. Like, I gotta pay my rent.
Definitely so expensive.
I have to keep buying them because I'm always talking to other people about good stuff I've read, and then they're like, "Oh, cool! If you got that one," and it'll always be the ebook or whatever it is I'm recommending.
Yeah.
And then I can't pass them on. So I love I give different genres to different friends and stuff, and I like to just so that they remember me and how great I am. So.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you don't mind, we were talking about internet obsessions. We were talking about the Reddit Let's Not Meet and how much we like Let's Not Meet.
Mm-hmm.
I have like, when I look at the internet and the weird side of the internet, which I really enjoy doing, I get fascinated by a certain thing and then it will change to a different thing. And at the moment I'm really interested by the fact that there seem to be like whole communities, like on YouTube or gossip threads or whatever, that kind of create a community and become friends with each other based around not liking someone. And they'll like have like streams where a bunch of them get on and just slack off this person. It's really crazy.
Dear.
Is it on a celebrity, or is it like someone who's down the street from them and they're just like, let's team up on our neighbor we don't like?
Well, it's generally like someone on YouTube or something.
Okay.
You know, that they've taken a dislike to, and it's really like it can get quite vehement as well. It's really interesting. There's certain like YouTubers that always seem to get it. But yeah.
It seems a little poisonous to base your friendships off of something so negative. Like,
well, yeah. I mean, how do you kind of, I don't know, like.
So do you like ContraPoints as well?
Yes.
Right. Did you see the latest one on incels?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh, good, because that came up with that rule that was really good. It's something like I think she calls it like fatalistic epistemology or something. Like whatever hurts must be true.
Yeah.
It's not true, and I was like, oh my god, I totally do that. And then once I stopped doing that, I was like, oh, life is like way better than I thought it was.
I know completely, because I used to,
yeah.
So I used to think that like if someone said something horrible to me, that was the real truth, and that all the nice things that everyone has ever said is just to make me feel better. And then one day I thought, oh god, that's such a miserable way of thinking, and I seem to the tablets helped as well, but I got a lot better from that. But it's true, because like some of the incels, oh god, we're talking about incels, it's gonna be awful. Some of the incels are actually not bad looking, I'll say.
Oh, yeah, no.
They're not bad, and
I totally go for an incel or two.
Yeah, it's just they are so convinced of how things are.
Okay.
Their personality is just poisonous, and I would never be attracted to it.
But I know there was that one guy who was making videos on YouTube and then he like deleted his channel.
Is he called Eggy?
No. I was thinking of a different incel. He made all these videos and people were like you said, just like, dude, you're in your own head, you're way prettier than people think you are. And
I don't know who you mean. I don't know his name though.
Well, they're all the same.
Yeah.
Radicalized people, they all think the same. So he was just like, I'm just looking for that one honest person to tell me how ugly I am.
Yeah. And it's like, well, that's clearly just what you want to hear, isn't it?
Yeah. It's so. I read. Oh, okay. I'm taking it this direction. I'll get it back off this direction soon, I hope. I read this book by this Norwegian journalist, and it was really good. Her name is Åsne Seierstad, and her book was about Anders Breivik, right? And he just like so many people are doing this now. He just like sat in a bedroom, read a bunch of shit, and then he was like, my head's fucked now. Like, this is what I'm like now.
Yeah.
You're never stopping me thinking this way.
People are finding their like negative space to slot into, and like incels and red pill, whatever.
It seems crazy to me to build a community around not getting laid.
Yeah, but this is kind of
what is that? Like, it's. I mean, not getting laid is admittedly a problem. You know, we're human beings who need things, physical, whatever. But like, to build not just a group of people who go, let's raise this flag and rally around it, but like I don't know, like you said, become radicalized about it.
Yeah.
Like, this is who I am now, and this is what I'm going to.
Yeah,
this is how I'm going to view the world.
World
like,
view.
Just be nice, and you'll get laid. Like, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, it's like it becomes an entire world view of like, actually, I know the truth about the world, and you know, I'm on the inside, and I know that secretly this is how people think, and. It's bizarre. Actually, I was looking at what's that conspiracy theory? I was just streaming earlier where I was looking at what is it, QAnon or something? That's another bizarre.
I've heard of that.
It's basically.
I'm not sure what that is, but that's all over the place in America right now.
It's basically where people seem to think that a government official is posting on 4chan and predicting government secrets, and it kind of, every time something happens in the news, they say that was related because of this, and if anything goes wrong with Trump, they kind of say, oh, it's okay, he's not messing up really, it's because this is his plan, and it's very odd. And
got a lot of plans, I guess.
Yeah.
He's messing up pretty often.
None of them are working, so I don't know.
The thing about the virginity community is, like, maybe it's the same as, now an equivalent is like being an unpublished writer.
Yeah.
Is like, you think that once you get published, like, it's just going to be the magic solution, and everyone else is trying to keep you away from it.
Yeah.
And like, just, you don't understand that. Like, Danger came up with the mountain analogy. It's like, it just keeps going. Whatever dream you achieve is just on to the next thing. There's no one thing that's going to make you whole. You've got to keep going.
Well, this kind of thing just shows me how you can form a cult. We were talking about cults earlier, and this is kind of the same sort of thing. You can form a cult on anything that you share in common with a specific group. Like vegans, the guys in Australia who turned out to be completely insane, and incels, and not having sex, and I don't know, I can't think of... But Final Fantasy, there were people who were fans of Final Fantasy VII, and they all went to live in a house together, and it turned into a complete nightmare. You can start a cult on anything. Yeah, seriously, look it up. The Final Fantasy VII cult. It's fascinating.
Oh my god. Dear. Well, there's always going to be more information in the world than any one human can handle. So I don't know, it's a weird feeling of comfort, right? To just go, I get to stop learning or something.
Well, I have a question about what happens when, so you're let's say some guy is an incel, and he, builds his whole social circle and his whole identity around this thing, and then through some fucking miracle, some woman or man takes a pity on them or whatever, and that person gets laid.
Yeah.
Like, is it just like, oh, sorry guys, I'm cool now. Like, have fun with your little group on the internet.
I think that did actually happen to one incel, and they're not. I don't think they're allowed back into the Reddit group or something like that. Seriously, like, that's not even a joke. Not Reddit. They're not on Reddit anymore. You gotta keep having sex a secret, because because it's like some religious oppression or something. It's just because you don't want you'll be banned. Yeah.
Virgin friends to kick you out of your Reddit group.
Exactly.
It sounds a bit like that film The Lobster now. You seen that one?
Yes, I like The Lobster.
Yeah.
I like that. It's got the guy from Perfume in. He's very good. I like him.
Oh yeah, he's pretty. He has lovely hair.
He's very pretty.
Yeah. Good work. Dear.
I'm gonna get some water.
Okay, are you able to edit your recording or?
No, that's okay. Do you have any literary regrets? Any of you? It can be anything book related. It can be reading related, writing.
I shouldn't have told people to read Infinite Jests.
No, I've never read that.
Well, I'm not going to tell you to do it.
Okay.
So.
Is it not very good?
It's very weird, and it's a big commitment, and it's challenging in a way that lots of readers wouldn't like. That's all. If I was to read it again, I wouldn't read the footnotes, and I would skim a little bit, which I think is probably essential. but I shouldn't have been telling people to do it. I just really enjoy. We're talking about weird tendencies you have, and I try and find just the most difficult thing I can do, and then I decide that must be the very best thing. So I'm like, okay, well, if I manage to get through this very difficult book, then that must be the best thing I can do with my time.
Yeah.
So I think now you learn that unless something resonates with you, you're not really learning from it. It's not part of your thing. You won't remember it. It's,
Yeah, I still kind of have trouble with that one because I, if you start a book, sometimes it'll take me a long time to admit to myself if I don't want to finish it, Yeah.
That's why I am very weary of starting any book that's over 300 pages.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I'm like, you better not waste my time. Like, I'm like gonna get angry at the author if it ends up not being good and I've gotten 200 pages in, and I'm just like, I don't know if I want to finish this. It's gonna be like, you asshole, wasted 200 pages of my time.
And then you write a strongly worded letter to the author. You wasted my time.
Almost nobody has anything over 300 pages to say as well, and then it's like, if it's like 705 pages, you're like, you sure it's not 704 even?
Yeah.
No, you gotta have all those 705 pages. No, you don't. Like. But
the characters won't be fully fleshed out if I don't.
No, like as soon as they take too long, like making a sandwich, I'm like, boom, I'm out. On to the next thing.
Well, that's another problem, kind of going back to where we were talking about earlier about trying to find a way to market ourselves to larger audiences or create books that an agent would be interested in. They're not interested in stuff that's under 300 pages, and the three of us write. I like to think of our writing as punchy. It's quick. You're supposed to sit down, you're in and you're out, and it's supposed to leave an impression on you, like a meteor strike. You're not supposed to sit there and ruminate on it for hours and hours, and like it's meant to sucker punch you, and there's not really a marketable way to do that.
There is. I mean,
that said, sorry, I was gonna say, that said, writing something that's 1,000 pages too, you better be Stephen King or something, because otherwise an agent's gonna look at that and be like, "You're insane. Get this out of here."
Yeah, I don't think necessarily longer is better. Definitely.
And it's not like you can just call to the muse and be like, "Give me 300 pages." Yeah. That's what agent wants.
Bloody muse.
Yeah. But it's very true. Like, as you know, when you write a certain story in a certain style, you're like, you feel the energy going out of you, I think, towards the end, where you're like, yeah, this has come to natural conclusion. If I drag this on, I'm going to be diluting it. So, yeah.
How about you, Danger? Literary book regrets?
Are we speaking of my own personal things I've created, or just
anything
I spend my time on?
Like something that you read or didn't read, or anything literary.
I don't know about regrets. I'm pretty good about not finishing things I don't like. Like, I can pretty much pinpoint something immediately and go, this is not for me. I'm talking within 30 pages.
Yeah.
If I start reading a book and I'm just like, I don't feel it right away, I'm like, life's too short. I can't do this right now with my time. I don't, I've never told anyone to read Infinite Jest. I haven't read it either, so.
No. I don't actually know what it's about. What is Infinite Jest? I hear it so much.
I have no idea. It's, if I was to explain it, it's all about, and I also read this other book which explained the structure of it. And so the structure of it is, 15 keywords that represent America.
Mm-hmm.
And they're almost 15 different themes of the book, gone into different combinations using the examples of people who are in an addict recovery place, so drug addicts, and these kids in a tennis academy, some of whom are smoking weed. So it's a bit the kind of effort and concentration that's required to lead a meaningful life compared to the distractions of America, and the pleasure of entertainment as a sedative, so that's linked to the drug use, and it doesn't. People piece together the plot. It doesn't seem to have a plot to me. It just seems to be episodic ruminations on that, really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's I at a certain time I really loved his writing, but then I recently reread brief interviews with hideous men.
Yeah.
That kind of wallowing in existential despair gets a
Yeah.
bit bored. And another thing is, like, I was reading this, one of the stories is like, oh, his wife thinks the husband is cheating on her, so she goes and hides here, he goes and does this, and I was like, if you guys just talk to each other,
have a conversation.
A problem. And don't tell me that, like, well, the culture prevents it. It's like, no, it doesn't. Don't go talk to your wife.
You can talk to them any way you want now as well. You can just DM them and say, "Are you having an affair?" It's really easy.
Snapchat your wife and
exactly. Snapchat your wife.
You can only talk to her in 10-second increments.
Yeah.
Don't screenshot this.
Yeah.
Saying this. Dear.
Don't send it to drama channels.
Question: how about you? Do you have literary regrets?
Well, the major one that I can think of at the minute is London had an exhibition of John Dee's library. I think it was either the year before, last year or the year before, and I missed it, and I'm still gutted and annoyed about that. And I got a ticket to go and see Neil Gaiman talk about his new thing, and I was ill and I missed it. So I think those are the
I showed up at a bookshop in Oslo a day after Knausgård had been there. I didn't know he was going to be there.
I missed a Welcome to Night Vale book thing actually in Portland by one day as well.
They always have something crazy going on at Powell's, that bookstore.
Yeah.
It's like every week there's probably someone famous coming through. At least like one or two people, famous writers or a famous celebrity who had written a book or whatever the case is.
God, Powell's is amazing. I've never seen it. It's just huge. Oh my God. Powell's in Portland. It's amazing. There's so many floors. It just keeps going. You could get lost.
Yeah, five stories, and it's an entire city block. It's the size of the building.
That's
so
amazing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Have you seen
it's pretty
celebrities
cool.
there? Do you want to see them?
I don't really get out like that too much. Not that I don't get out and do things, but I don't go to too many readings. I see my friends read a lot because there's so many, especially as bizarre writers in town and things like that. So I do that quite a bit, but I haven't seen anybody, at least since I've lived here. I've seen a lot of names and I went, oh, I want to go check that out. And then I just never do.
Yeah. I do that with books sometimes. Like I've had people, I feel awful about it, but people say, oh, will you, does anyone want to read my book? And I say yes, and then I still haven't got around to it. I feel terrible about it.
I wanted to just take photos of the stacks of books I have, like physical books, for just research for my writing thing, and you're like, I don't think I'll even get through my own research before the end of the year. And it just PDFs stacking up on my hard drive just endlessly.
In the meantime, we're both reading Let's Not Meet instead.
That's true. So, like, there isn't a,
I have noticed as my stock slightly rises as a writer, the amount of people sending me free books and PDFs and stuff has also gone up.
Yeah.
And like you just said, I had like PDFs like filling up my Kindle and stuff. And they're like, hey, can you blurb this? And you do that. And I almost always do if I can, but I'm like, oh man, I'm reading all these books that aren't even like published, you know? And I'm like, and I have a stack of books that I bought, and I have a stack of books waiting for me at the library, and I'm just like, where do I find the time to do everything or get all this into my head, which is kind of the end goal.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think something this year that I've just stopped questioning like why I write or whether or not there's space for more books or anything. I've just been like, okay, this is just what I do now. And that's been a kind of lovely, liberating thing. Did you guys have a moment like that as well? Did you struggle with the notion of like, why bother writing another book, or why should I write?
I've kind of found that as I've been going on, I've been getting clearer about like specific ideas and what I want the next step to be. I've kind of got like small steps in my head, you know, what I'm going to do next. So I think I'm actually getting, you know, clearer on things, and more confident, I think, actually. So, yeah.
I'll kind of echo that statement, too, because, yeah, like, I've never been really hit with that, like, why bother moment, but, like, because I look at it with, like, as small steps, and I can see there's been a slight progression in I'm getting more readers, and my prose, I think, is getting better, and I'm getting more people interested, and I can see small but tangible results from doing this. So in my head, I'm like, oh, if I did this for 15 more years at this rate, I'll be a famous author in 15 years.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe it just takes that long, Like, what else am I going to do with my life?
Well, exactly.
I think it picks up a bit faster than that. When you're at the very bottom, you're scrambling for a long time, and then I think it just... When they say it takes 10 years to become an overnight success or something like that, I think there's just a point. Of course, it's very easy to say to you instead of myself, but...
No, I think that's true.
It is true. To get your first book together, I think, takes a lot more effort than your fourth or fifth or sixth or however many book. Like that first one is going to...
Yeah, the
you're
anxiety.
Going to put not only the most work into it, but it's going to just take you... You don't know what you're doing yet,
Yes, definitely. I think about the first book I ever read that I didn't even show to anyone because it was really bad, but I think that's important. I knew to look at it and think this is really bad, and then get rid of it and do something else. So yeah,
I think, like, when I look at my earlier stuff, I always think, oh, you're not supposed to go in that direction. You're not supposed to write that kind of thing. And then I'm like, who says you're not supposed to do that? Like, where did I come up to? It's kind of because I always think, I do read books by new authors, and I read established authors as well. And I think if you're a new author, just the thrill of seeing words on the page and creating worlds kind of overrules any kind of structural flaws or anything like that in this thing. So I think there's always, like, no matter what stage you're at, there's always a valid, attractive thing about your writing that gets kind of lost. Because I think the other thing about getting a big audience very soon is that you're locked in. They have expectations, and you hopefully by then have developed a style, but you should probably stick to it.
Yeah.
It's not all great at the top either, I don't think.
No.
There's very few artists out there who can work in, like, give you something different every time, and people are, like, okay with that. Like, Joe Lansdale specifically is the one I'm thinking of, who, I don't know if you've read anything by him, but he'll do, like, noir, and then he'll do weird stuff, and then he'll do horror stuff, and then so some of it'll be funny, and some of it'll be sad, and it's just like you don't know. I mean, you don't know exactly where he's going to go with something until you get it. And this guy's been writing for 30-something years or 40 years, and that's what his fans have come to expect and want from his books, and it's probably the hardest road to travel is that.
Yeah. As
opposed to going, this is what I do. I make books that look like this. I make art that looks like this, and this is what the people want from me, and this is what I'm going to give them.
Kind of like,
then you're just following the template.
Stephen King, no offense to him, but that kind of thing. Like, he does horror, and they tend to be quite similar. But yeah.
That was one of my questions, actually, is how do you feel about straddling that balance? How do you guys consciously brand yourself? Do you like to see how the writing comes out?
I mean, I don't approach things going, how does this fit in? Or how, like, is this enough like the things that I've done before? Like, I kind of naturally, I think, just happens that way because maybe I'm not as multifaceted as someone who can write a noir, like a Joe Lansdale, who could do all these different things. Like, maybe I am just a bizarro writer, and my style is the style I do, That said, I try to surprise myself and write something that I think would be surprising to a reader at the same time, because I feel like there's an undefinable quality of something when you're consuming art that is the element of surprise or giving you something you didn't expect. I think is something that makes you truly love something, right? If you go into a comedy movie, let's say. You're going, I'm going to show up at this comedy movie, I'm expecting to laugh, and the movie makes you laugh. You go, that was my transaction. Thank you for giving me what I paid for. If you go into the movie and you laugh and then you cry also, and then you feel scared, like, it's giving you different emotions, you go, whoa, this is way more than I paid for. Yeah. This is awesome. You know?
Kind of like that series on TV, Flowers. I don't know if you've seen it. It's another British thing, but it starts off really fun, like very dark, but very funny. And then sort of as the series goes on towards the end, it becomes so sad that I cried, you know. I mean, I cry at everything anyway, but it's a real like genre blendy thing. It's good.
When I think about all of my favourite authors, I think what they have in common is maybe a unique voice, but whatever their next book is, I'm just going to get it, and they're welcome to attempt whatever they want. And I think they have that kind of authorial voice. I always think in particular of Lionel Shriver, because I don't know if you've read any of her books, but she does not care if you like her in the slightest. She sounds like she just writes exactly what's on her mind and does not give a shit. And like her dedication to that and her love of that is so amazing that you want to be her fan, even though I feel so repelled by the notions that she's doing.
That sounds good. That sounds like something I want to read.
Oh yeah, so of hers, she had a short story collection out this year called Property, but she also has this book called So Much for That, about the American healthcare system. It's just amazing. It's so brutal. Like, I started reading it in an airport when I was alone, and I was like, I don't think I'm really ready for this. I've got to put this down. But another thing about authors that you really respect that have this original voice is it often takes me a little while to learn how to read them.
Yeah.
Like if you read something by David Foster Wallace, you're like, what the hell is this guy trying to say? Why are these sentences so long? Like, what the hell? But if you take your time and you're in the right mood, and you have patience with them, then they're taking you to somewhere new.
Sometimes that can take a bit of getting used to, because there's been so many times where I've just been put off by the voice of the author. Like when I first read Anais Nin, like her diaries and stuff, I was like, what? God, she's so over the top. But then as I read more, I just thought she was really great. And, yeah.
Danger, have you had any reading experiences like that?
I mean, yes. Yeah, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Tom Robbins, but he has a very specific way that he writes, and it's been a major influence on me. And I always found it really interesting because it's one of those writers where you'd read a sentence, and if you skip 2 lines and read the sentence 2 lines down, you'd be like, well, how did we get from here to here?
Yeah.
You know, and then it's the entire book. And he's got I think he's written 12 or 15 novels or something. But that's just how he writes. And a lot of people will read that and they're just like, this is trash. I can't connect with this. It's weird. It's not getting to the point and I don't like it. And then when I read it, I'm like, this speaks to me on some other level where I fall into the rhythm that this guy is doing. And that's why I respond to it. I'm part of the music of the words of his writing. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's kind of where I would want to take my stuff, and where you can kind of weed out the people who are not going to be fans of what you do.
Yeah.
You know, is by refining your voice into that way. And maybe, I'm not going to write exactly like Tom Robbins, but I'm going to write like Danger Slater, and if I can always write more and more like myself, then I'm going to just kind of hone that knife, that blade, as I cut through all these people that could be potential readers, and connect on the ones that are going to really, land and go, this is good. I like this.
I think
poetic.
Yeah, it seems like that is panning out for you, and you're going in the right direction and everything. But it's meaningful along the way anyway. That creative fulfillment of getting out of your head what was in it, rather than trying to match some sort of expectation, which it does not compute to me. It's not something I'm capable of doing, unfortunately. But I enjoy the other path enough.
Well, I mean, I'm saying, yeah, it isn't like let me do what I did before. It's like how do I be the better version of myself, or how do I be the better writer version of myself? You know. So, and I think that is kind of what makes somebody stand out, and especially younger writers or nascent writers or people that aren't necessarily established on a wider scale. You know that. Like a Stephen King, who doesn't need to fight for readers.
Oh no, he's here behind me. You mentioned this.
Yeah. He is. He's like, "What did you say?" He's gonna start tweeting about me. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of lost the train of thought here.
Good point, though.
But I don't know. Yeah, someone go on. Someone pick up off of this. I'm kind of lost.
The idea of what's it, carving your own path or anything, or being a new author. I think you see these people who they seem so close to you. They're on Twitter. They might respond to you. They're right there beside you, and yet they're totally not. They're years away from you. They're miles away from you. Their style is so developed and very much their own. If they get their own audience, I think of people like Jeff Vandermeer, for example. Like he's always on Twitter talking stuff, and then you think about his style is very unique and different, and the idea might be to, I don't know, just capitalize on that by copying him. Because he's got all the money and the fans. Why don't you just shortcut it and get there?
Yeah, I mean, there's already a Jeff Vandermeer. So.
Yeah, and I think you see authors doing that, and it's very confusing because if you want to please people, as we've just been talking about, people are weird and people are in many different groups. So if you want to please people, people like this and people like that, and the people there hate that, and the people there hate that. So if you stray from your core self to try and please people, you never go there. I think so. Then you have the option of you're allowed to meet them in the middle by trying to decide what they like. And I think my own development as a writer is just to see, okay, there's no need to be unconventional where there's no need for it. If you have something very weird to say, then say it as clearly as possible. Like, you don't need to use the big words. You can have a beginning, middle, and end. That doesn't have to be the part that's unconventional about it.
Yeah, because people still need to...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, because people do still need to want to read it, you know, and if it's weird and, you know, not in a coherent form, it's just going to be very confusing.
That's exactly what I was going to say along that. Like, when I go to write my books, I know I can kind of meander, and I think go off on tangents, and I believe it all kind of leads to the same place, but I very distinctly try to build a 3-act structure. And sometimes I'll even split the book into 3 parts: part 1, part 2, part 3. Like, I want the reader to know that they are on the ride, that they know that this is going to deliver. It's going to take you somewhere, even if I'm going off in all these directions and saying, "Hey, look at that! Look at this!" Like, you know, you're at least following a path that's going to take you where you need to go.
The middle grade book that I've just done the first draft of, I actually made more lists. I wrote out like a 3-act structure and sort of tried to stick to it. So
See, that's another part of, I think, what I've been doing as well, is that you're not selling out or doing the wrong thing by doing that. It would be an immature person who deviates from all structures with no reason. You know, there's a reason that these conventions exist, and if you have no reason to flout them, then you should probably use them. Yeah,
unless you've got a really good idea that hinges on ignoring all of it. If you're just doing it because you want to be contrary, then it's probably not going to work out.
Like, you and I do the thing where it's like back and forth. You might plot a bit, you might write a bit, and we adjust the plot, and that's kind of how I do it as well. And I think on blogs, and when people talk about it, they talk about it as if they are 2 separate entities, because they talk about the plotter and the pantser, but it's kind of a mix of both.
It's good to be a mix of the 2. Okay.
Especially where we're coming from, writing bizarro or weird fiction, like you're already straining people's incredulity, credibility to you're already straining people going, hey, accept this bizarre premise I'm giving you. Like, they don't need to go, oh, also there's no beginning, middle, and end. The story's just going to happen, and then at some point you'll run out of pages.
Someone dances
they're going to be like, what the hell is
room.
this, you know?
Yeah. Someone spins around in a room for 4 hours and their head becomes flowers, the end.
Sorry, go for it.
No, go ahead.
I recently tried to read Book of Numbers by Joshua Cohen.
What's that?
He's one of these, like, educated white guys who just, like, uses a lot of big words. Yeah. And I was like, right, well, I'm totally on board with that, because that's, like, my favorite type of book. I think he was just like, oh, it's so passe to explain to a reader who these people are, or put them in the scene, or tell you what country they're in, or why anything is happening, and you're like, I mean, I would appreciate a little bit of that, because some of the passages were quite nice, I thought. They were really interesting, but it just didn't hang together for that reason.
It just becomes pretty words.
Another one I read recently was My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Tessa Moshfegh. Do you know her?
No.
I think she won did she win the Booker for Eileen? I don't know. She had this book of short stories that was great, but I think she's going to start using a plot in future from what I read of her stuff. But plotlessness did work for short stories, but to go the length of a novel, I was like, so nothing's really going to happen, is it? Like, page 1, nothing's going to happen. Page 50, nothing's going to happen, so why would I keep going? You know?
Yeah.
And it's like, it's okay to have a book that your character maybe just changes a tiny little bit, or they're slightly better off, or slightly worse off. Like, all you need is that inch, right? And you could go 1,000,000 miles just to go an inch. But that's what matters at the end, is that just going somewhere and not going nowhere, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's how I feel, or how I approach writing fiction, you know? I go, where does the character start? Where does the character end? And that's the journey we're on. We're following that.
Yeah, good.
Sorry, go for it.
Oh no, I was just saying good. That's it.
No, when I was younger, I used to think, like, okay, to use a conventional plot structure is not, like, approaching life, because life doesn't work that way. And then, now I think it does, because it's like, you're not going to get away without a trajectory, aiming at something. There will be obstacles, you will have to overcome them and learn and become a better person in order to overcome them. That's the way life works. Therefore, that's the way stories work, and you're not deviating from the reality of life by using them.
Or at the very least, like, maybe you could be like, well, all of life is you know, you're just going to die one day, and it might just be random, and that's that. So there is no point to that. But along the way, you are living little stories. You're living little arcs, and that is, like what you said, that is what life is. You're going on little journeys constantly.
I don't know, it's like, life, and especially stories, is bigger than just one person dying. It's always, people always tell me that, like, oh yeah, like, it ends when you end, and you're like, no, it doesn't. And also, it was going on before you arrived, and it spins around an axis, not you, mate. So I don't know.
Yeah, so stick that in your
mind.
mind.
That comes with maturity. You know, I think everyone probably gets better as a writer as they get older.
Yeah, it's practice, isn't it? The more you do anything, the better you get at the thing. I might have to pop off, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. So yeah, thanks. Look in the description for things. Okay. All right. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.